Now, so many people have lost their jobs over the last few years, mainly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And added to that, the rising cost of living. It's no wonder so many South Africans are battling to survive. Unions have been called on to help. And to discuss this further, we're now joined by COSATU's Matthew Parks to take this conversation even further. Mr. Parks, good to have you as always, and good morning to you. I mean, I'm sure it's obvious, pasted all over wherever you turn, the cost of living in this country, the impact of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, even on our pockets, the impact of the global pandemic. But where do unions therefore play a role in ensuring that the workers have a well-balanced livelihood that they can maintain?
No, good morning. Thanks. Look, it's been an ongoing struggle. The Ukraine crisis has made it worse. It's going to make it worse. And of course, for the past 2 years, we've been dealing with COVID-19, with a very deep economic recession. Unemployment is at an all-time high of 46%. 2.2 million workers have lost their jobs in the last 2 years. Millions have lost wages. Millions are highly indebted. So as COSATU and our affiliates, we've been engaged on quite a variety of fronts. During the peak of the lockdown, we had managed to disperse about 63 billion rand from the UIF to about 5.5 million workers to help them to pay for food, take care of their families, and so forth. We've been quite involved in the economic recovery plan developed at NEDLAC. And for us, there are key things which need to be done. Some by government, for example, fixing Eskom so there's reliable and affordable electricity, helping it reduce the debt burden so that it doesn't have to increase electricity tariffs by 20%, for example, because that suffocates the economy and it pickpockets workers. Government's also got to fix Transnet because that's going to create jobs in the mining, manufacturing, agricultural sectors. Equally, it's got to save Metro Rail because that's critical to getting workers to work in the cities on time at a cheap price. But we think there's also some stuff we can do in our own hands as workers. We can buy locally produced clothes or furniture or cars or food, because that's going to create and to save jobs in the manufacturing sector. We were quite pleased when the Minister of Finance in his budget speech said government's going to review the fuel price regime. We hope that will happen this time. We've heard that promise before. Because really, fuel prices is squeezing workers' very small wages. It means taxi fares, food prices, other goods are pushed up at a rate which is much faster than wages go up at all times. So there's many issues that need to be done. But we also think that the banks can do something as well. They can help to reduce interest charge to low-income earners, stop squeezing them at these exorbitant rates. We hope the Reserve Bank could go easy on the repo rate hikes this year, because again, that just squeezes workers much more. So there's quite a few things that need to be done. But also equally, government has got to get the economy moving. We can't keep treading water in an economy of unemployment of 46%.
And speaking of government, Mr. Parks, do you think they have failed public servants? Yes,
they have, clearly, without a doubt. Public servants negotiated in good faith, accepted a compromise in 2018, which included the 2020 wage agreement. Government, led by the former Minister of Finance, simply walked away. They gave workers, in effect, a middle finger. They refused to come to the bargaining table. They went to Parliament and announced a wage freeze. And unfortunately, the Constitutional Court has upheld that, we think, on a legal technicality. But the reality is those public servants we've been glorifying for the past 2 years for keeping this country afloat, nurses and teachers, doctors and police officers, military personnel, have been left shortchanged. The agreement they signed last year was a very modest agreement. It was the lowest in many, many years, and unions did it partly to assist government because we recognize the fiscal pressures it's facing. Workers don't want to see government collapse or go under because it's too indebted, etc. But government has to work with the workers to find a compromise. So it was positive in the finance speech, the budget speech. The Minister of Finance said for the current wage agreement, they're going to go to the bargaining council. They're going to engage unions on a wage agreement. But they're going to have to do a lot to rebuild the level of trust because right now it's been shattered to 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, and I'm raising this issue with you because of the recent Constitutional Court outcome that we've seen this week. And I've seen your statement reiterating that, this outcome would particularly likely cause some labour instability. Elaborate on that in terms of this particular warning, because I think it's of serious nature when we talk about labour instability in this country at this present moment.
Sure. Look, we've actually had a good period of labour market stability. Strikes have been at the lowest. Workers don't go on strike because they want to. They go out because the employer refuses to negotiate in good faith. Strikes have actually come down to quite a bit over the past few years. And unions play a critical role in trying to address workers' concerns, find a compromise that is acceptable to employer and to the workers. But when the biggest employer in the country, which is government, reneges on a wage agreement which has been signed, does it in a very callous, reckless way. It makes it difficult. It makes it difficult for unions to trust the employer again. It makes it difficult for workers to trust any agreement that it will be honoured going forward. Government has been keen for 3 wage agreements. We had also supported those in the past because it gives everybody a bit of space and stability and predictability. It's going to be difficult to convince unions now to go for 3 wage agreements. Our fear also is that if government as an employer can renege on it, so can the private sector employers too, and that's going to increase the tension at the workplace. Unions are going to become much more less trusting of the employer and much quicker to embark on strikes if they feel there's a need to defend the rights of workers. So really, government has done a huge disservice simply by not engaging in good faith, simply by not talking to unions about its pressures and finding a compromise or acceptable solution. But to do what the former Minister of Finance did, which was to slap unions in the face and to throw workers under the bus, it really has caused a huge amount of damage to labour market stability.
Well, we have to leave it there due to time, but I appreciate you speaking to us, Matthew Parks, from COSATU, talking about, the importance of, unions uniting at this particular time, workers also taking their agency, but also speaking there, raising concerns around the labour instability that may be caused due to this recent Constitutional Court case outcome.